What's up, guys? Hopefully, you guys had a good break. Definitely, definitely had to go to the washroom there, and to be honest, but hopefully, you guys enjoyed those first little bit of the matches. So we didn't get the analyst there. We didn't get the analyst then, right then. Oh, sorry, am I really loud? Sorry, guys. Sorry. Let's change it a little bit. Let's better down. Hopefully that gets a little bit better. All right. So analyst of game one, we'll just have Tiber talk about game one there and throw us the breakdown.
All right, so game one was incredibly quick. um, Yang came in swinging, absolutely. Um, for me, and I think, and like a lot of us probably noticed, the game was rather decided on draft. We saw Yang bring an incredible cleave comp, Ox, Judge Kisei, and Arbiter Builder. Um, an error that I think was made on Light's part was just deciding to sit there and take it rather than trying to come up with something to counter contest, um, play something faster to try to challenge the speed game, or stack more damage mitigation rather than Charlotte, which didn't really do much. The fast K-Run was a bit of a surprise, and for those that aren't aware, K-Run does have the highest base speed in the game at 129. If he's not doing enough damage to guarantee the kill at first, it doesn't really achieve much. And we even saw, because he was so fast, probably had to sacrifice some stats elsewhere, like crit chance, for example, missing the crit on turn one. And even though he was on the skill 3 silence EE, it got resisted. So, all in all, pretty quick game. Not too much to be said there. Just a well played draft and a hard commit on the Yang side.
Yeah, we definitely saw Yang come swinging in that first round. Literally went with the draft and finished it in a matter of seconds there. Really difficult just within the drafting phase already for, I think, Light and Ryu to really come back from that. And all right, game two, Panshui. What are your thoughts on game two there?
So that game two was a little bit more different. We actually saw both the ALOS and Athletica get pre-banned. So this basically denies like a lot of cleave potential, especially when the enablers are banned out. However, the bans didn't the after bans after all the picks went through wasn't exactly too great. The series getting banned was actually a good call. However, for Light Nuru, he didn't exactly ban the right unit. He actually saw that his K-Ron outsped the Akoli in one instance for game one. However, he actually didn't ban. He continued to ban the Akoli regardless, even though he knew that he was about to outspeed. I felt like the correct ban there should have been the Cdom to deny the damage. Otherwise, he probably could have lived. He probably definitely would have lived. As we saw in the game, the fast K-Rod didn't exactly do any damage. Even though given greater attack buff, it had no kill potential on the Cdom whatsoever. Even though there was like a definite chance where if the game held on for a little bit longer, he probably could have had like a small potential to do anything. But then eventually turn order came around. Huge Yang actually came out with the fat cleaves as well. Charles taking a turn, giving attack over to Cdom. Cdom proceeded to one-shot the LQC and popping the crowd as well. Everything was just going very, very bad from there, and the game was called.
Yeah, 2 rounds in huge Wang's favor there. Definitely definitely swept that. Sorry, huge
Yang.
Sorry, huge Yang's favor there. Definitely swept up the competition there. On that note, we did hear some questions there. Let's hear Once Enough talk about a little bit on Alencia picks and some other notable picks that we've seen in this tournament here.
So Ark earlier mentioned during the drafting phase, he was like, we see a lot of these Alencia picks. Like, why are people picking it so early? Alencia is pretty strong. There's a lot of good things in her kit. So first of all, she has AoE defense buff, which is great for damage mitigation, both in cleave sense and non-cleave sense. It's great against bruisers, etc. She also has her own defense break and a multiple hit defense break into something else. Overall, she is like a really solid pick. She's a safe pick. She's an AoE strip too. She's one of actually the few units that has that kind of like mechanic where she can AoE strip, right? Most of them are locked behind things. The really good ones, at least, are locked behind either like being a full support, being an ML, Athletica, or being limited with the Cerise and stuff like that. So like having that Alencia, she's pretty much like the only strong bruisery type of unit that fits that role, where you have the AoE strip and the defense buff, and then you also just don't die like your paper or anything, you know? Like Cerise will pop your skill 3 if she has Guiding Light. She'll survive the extra turn because the stealth reduces the damage plus the invincibility. Then she can follow up with the stun. Athletica has the skill nullifier. But past that, like those units are a lot easier to kill on turn 2-3, whereas Alencia, unless you're like really giving her that strong nuke, she's like pretty good into like turn 7 through 10. Right? That's why we see a lot of people pick her early. She's also really, really good against the meta picks right now. People are picking Crowd, people are picking DN. Right? She's great versus both of those things. She has the strip, she has the elemental advantage, she has the defense break. To continue on with like these really popular and really strong picks, people pick DN. She's the highest, fastest soul gain in the game, right? Her with Spectre Tenebria, big heals, big shields, anti-crit. It's great. Generates souls like crazy for Spec 10 to skill 1 repeatedly. And then you also have, obviously, the Spec 10. Like, Spectre Tenebria is easily one of the strongest units out here right now. She's one of those picks where when you pick her, it's like a deciding moment in the draft. It's like, am I transitioning to protect the Spectre? Am I transitioning to this is a force ban, right? And we've seen time and time again people who don't respect the Spectre being there, and they're like, sorry, excuse me, they're like, the Spectre is the only damage. They just leave it, and they're like, well, now the Spectre lives through the whole match and kills everyone at the end. She kills 3 people at once, and it's just over instantly.
Yeah,
so
those are definitely
we're getting into the draft.
Yeah, those are definitely some notable picks that we've seen. We're going to see them a lot more. And we've seen some surprise picks from people. But yeah, the draft is starting. So let's swap over. Ark, let's hear what you guys have to say about the drafts now.
Go 10 bird.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate that. Hey, guys, welcome everybody from Whitey's channel as well, man. Appreciate the host, and welcome into round 2 of what has been a pretty ridiculous tournament so far. So the person that is currently a first round pick had a bye was 10 bird last time around. We already saw Tatsuni play a little bit. Do we think that we're going to see some of these people that had a bye in round 1 really start to take and make a huge, like, I guess, a huge like gambit? Like, are we going to see them take over like hugely in this next little bit, or are we going to see some of these 2 and 3s from other tournaments sort of take them out?
We'll have to see, Ark, but they definitely have a huge advantage just being able to watch the entire, what was it, top 32 draft? Right.
Very good point. Very good point. Because at this point, 10 bird most likely watched the fights, knows kind of what he's hoping to pick out. It's funny that Tatsu again, or it was Tatsu earlier that played the Tywin, correct? Just
it wasn't him, but I mentioned he does play it. I think his opponent tried to pick the Tywin away from him.
That's right. Interesting. What were the pre-bans on this? I'm not seeing.
I believe there was a
Basar and Ruel.
Was it Basar and Ruel? Thank you. Appreciate that. Interesting. So we've got a Crow ban and a DN ban. Let's jump right into it.
Well,
first match of round 2. Let's see if the.
I'm not a stranger to the Tatsuni ML Tywin, and I believe if I remember this unit correctly, his ML Tywin does deceptively high damage. We're gonna see if that comes into play and that surprises anyone here.
Oh, okay. Instant pop. Does get the Alexis proc basket. Wow, said that backwards. Let's say it again. Does get the Alexis basket proc and does a ton of damage. Gets the Kayron into the immortality right off the bat.
There's just so much damage being exchanged back and forth. This is incredible.
Very true.
So he's on counter set?
I believe he is on both counter and Elbrus.
Oh, good point.
Yep, so he stands there and he chucks that sword very hard.
Jeez, these blows exchange back and forth. Maid goes down but comes back with the revive. Alencia hoping to strip off. Now clarify with me, does she strip before or after the kill happens?
After the damage.
Okay, so technically it's a little late, so they do still get the revive on that.
Yeah. However, it does look like this match has been pretty decisive.
Yeah, it
As
does.
in, things are just Oh, there it is. Oh, he lives.
What
That's
is that?
incredible.
278 health.
Goodness.
Perfection calculations.
So we're gonna S1 here. Doesn't finish off the FCC.
Okay, this right here is gonna hurt. I know for a fact. Alright, SSB gets killed off now. It's just a matter of whether or not you can weather this K rundown. That is a defense break on the Alencia though, so that's very, very scary.
That is huge. We'll just see. He doesn't have a burn up, but assumably he's gonna S3 here first. Yep. So here we go.
Right.
This could be a dead Alencia. Oh,
It is not
It is
enough
not.
to kill,
It
and I believe that's
survives.
game. I believe that is game.
I think so too. The timing on the. Oh, wait.
Yep. Felt really fast that round.
Was that?
What's up, Arch?
I'm a little confused. So we get rid of this and we're done like right off the bat, but we knew that we still had the revive from the maid. Was it still just completely over at that point and I just missed something, or was that like, don't you usually wait and see like after that? But who was next after that? What was the?
Well, I believe the thought process was, even if the Charon does come back, he has burned his immortality. He's probably gonna die pretty fast. Alencia gets to live. Alencia probably finishes off the little queen, and then you're really just up. You're really up with one Charon with a little bit of HP up against a big handsome Tywin, and I think Tywin wins that one. So I
That's
think
fair.
the thought process was run through, and they decided, it was pretty decisive.
That's fair. Well, we're going to be going right into it. Their pre-bans are done. Back into round 2. So far, Tatsuni making it look like getting number 1 in a tournament is actually not the end. So, what do we got? We do have an Alencia first pick here going into... Actually, sorry. Alencia's second pick after a DN first pick from Tenbird. Interesting.
Because we check the boxes, right? Are
Right.
there buffs?
Makes
stripped?
sense.
Yes.
So the Alencia in
works.
makes more sense, I think, this time around than the other way around. So, yeah, that's interesting. Plus, the Basar is gone and the Ruel. Why? What do you... So, I see the Basar. The Basar usually is to kind of deal with not having to have, like, to go against a lot of cleave, correct? But what about with the Ruel coming in? What are these bans? Can somebody just explain them to me? I'm very confused. I don't see these bans. I see the Basar quite a bit, but... The Ruel, I'm just trying to figure out like what with the ban is forcing them to pick the things that they're going to pick.
All right. So in a lot of so we're just getting into a super high level play territory. And I know that Ruel is very favored in high level play because Ruel herself, when you have really strong gear, you can just make a Ruel that's very impeccable. She has the highest base defense in the game. She has good base HP. You give her a bunch of F-res, and you have a Ruel that's basically standing there and pretty much unkillable. And then you combo that Ruel with a bunch of mitigation and some damage threats. It makes it very difficult to deal with any potential like DPS that's being protected by all these units. A lot of the people just don't like dealing with the Ruel, don't like dealing with how much F-res she has, what she brings to the table. So just get rid of that. No one likes that.
So just a pretty safe ban considering how powerful she can be.
Extremely. So because Ruel with a bunch of stats is very difficult to deal with.
I mean, that makes sense. So it's mostly just because high-end, would you say like high-level players that have Ruel tend to have very ridiculous Ruels to deal with in these scenarios? That's basically why it's the ban?
I believe that it would be the case.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. We are going to see the Fire Ross coming back out again, the new specialty change. Interesting. With the A Ravi, I guess what are we assuming the ban's going to be over here? Because I would guess, do you leave Caesarado up or not? And if you're Tatsu right now, do you leave it up?
It depends, I think, a little bit on how much he fears the Caesarado, right? And I would... Nothing else really screams up, so I think the Caesarado is a pretty decent ban. Yep, obstacles for the Caesarado ban. Now, we're going to see what kind of Dizzy he's going to bring, because there is a Dispel on the side of Tatsu, but traditionally the Dizzies tend to be a little bit faster than the Alencias. So we'll see how this like speed tuning works out. interesting here that the enemy DN does not have immunity, so is subject to provoke.
Does end up
I wonder why
provoking.
he why he provoked the Arbiter Villager, perhaps trying to force out the S2.
Or counter to force counters.
That's a counter.
I don't think that's it. No, there's no way.
Because if he forces out the S2 on DN, right, that opens him up to debuffing, right? Because then there's no more cleanse on the side of Tenbird.
Right. Dizzy's already seeing herself pretty low here into Little Queen. Does Little Queen just S3 finish that off, or because I don't see there being something that you're going to quickly take out with a Ravi? So is this a safe kill?
That's what she's gonna do.
Oh, goes for the
goes
Ravi.
for the APOC and has enough damage.
Oh my gosh.
We are definitely seeing, you know, some very, very big damage being exchanged on both sides, like in round 1. So these players definitely are very confident on their units.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang.
and the DN does have high effect resist.
Isn't that? I think we were talking about that last weekend, right? Is that like becoming a more common thing? I think on DN these days is very, very high effect resist.
With no immunity? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, ER is just ER is really nice, right? So ER on especially a lot of these units that provide buffs and rely on buffs lets you keep the buffs, because for every defense up you keep, that's essentially, you know, half damage taken, right? And likewise for every like buff she gets to keep, she's now a lot more resilient against things like Charles, against things like Alencia. So you feel more comfortable picking DN into units like this, like he did in this case.
So Dizzy manages to stay alive, and she got 2 abyssal procs on her S3.
Oh my gosh, that was. I mean, that's pretty huge too. Being able to get that on the Arbiter Vildred probably
Definitely,
saved her.
it was
Probably
his
saved the
turn
there.
next.
Does Dizzy? Oh man, is Dizzy going to be able to make the difference happen here for
If
Tatsu?
this Charlotte could just counter here and it's over for her. Did not get the counter, but she's hit like 3 counters already.
Yeah. Oh man, is that a yield? That's a yield from Tatsuni.
That's a yield.
Seems pretty confident that Tenbird was going to take it. So we're going into a 1-1 right off the bat. That's awesome. That's very, very exciting for all of us here, especially like very first. Whoa, it's loading. There we go. Very first fight here between Tenbird and Tatsuni. Now each having 1 up. Is that correct? I think that is.
Yep, 1-1.
Dang, what a good app.
That
good
Little
adaptation.
Queen Charlotte S3 onto the A Ravi, man. That was. I like that play. I think that was pretty much what sealed the deal.
To know that you're, I just am never that confident with my Little Queen, but what we've seen in the last 2 tournaments is that character built well has so much potential, enough so that I was talking to Playcat the other day, and he was literally telling me very specifically, because he was the one that had the really good Little Queen Charlotte last time, is that he's almost more confident having a Little Queen Charlotte built up than a Ravi anymore, which I thought was super interesting. Do you think, I mean, obviously if you have both, I'm assuming you're building both out, because as we saw earlier in the tournament, they both work, but man, Little Queen is making a real showing, enough so to get pre-banned this time around.
And that was some pretty big damage, right? And if
Huge.
I were a player who likes to pick some dark units, I don't want to deal with that.
Yep. That's fair. And there's a lot of really great dark units, so it makes sense. I mean, it is actually a really good pick. We see, again, right off the bat, Tenbird. So the immediate Tatsuni, Alencia into the DN. 2
There's
pretty safe
definitely
picks with the
a lot
Alencia
of
and the CZ.
confidence behind those 3 picks into the Alencia. So Tenbird is very confident on his units and how they're built.
That's a good point. Picking those into Alencia is an interesting, or is just initially saying like, actually, I'm just gonna ban that. I'm gonna ban your first turn.
Yeah,
comes out with the Cerise. Interesting.
I think I'm gonna respect their level of play enough to say that's more confidence than them just declaring outright we're gonna ban your Alencia, because just declaring that we're gonna just ban your first pick leaves the draft very vulnerable, right?
Super open.
So
Yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna-
absolutely.
So I'm
Ten
gonna
Bird
go
also
ahead and
saw
risk
his DN stand up against Valencia last round anyway.
Not this time. It looks like that's going to go. Alencia also gets banned. Kind of an expected ban, but we're interesting. Okay. This will be interesting to see because I feel like I'm getting flashbacks right now of that A Ravi plus Ross happening here with some of these dual attacks and then having a revive potential on that other team. Not to mention Arbiter Builder this time for a lot of damage.
What artifact do you think the Cerise is holding?
Guiding Light?
Oh,
maybe?
gets resisted. I'm very curious if any Cerise player has considered putting Elfeld's artifact on her, right? Because Cerise does do a single target damage on S2 and S1. So if she lands a couple of defense breaks with that, it can be very game changing.
Holy. Yeah.
Yeah, like res resisting is pretty big, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Takes him down, doesn't finish him
Didn't
off.
kill.
Gets the skill null now. Interesting. Okay.
But it's also pretty big that the Kayron didn't get reduced to 1 HP, right? Because now he gets an extra turn as a result. S2 is probably going to kill off Arbiter. Does not kill off
Does
Arbiter.
not kill the Arbiter.
Yeah, because of the
wow.
skill null.
I was thinking maybe the drink proc would be enough, but I guess it wasn't.
Strips off a decent amount of debuffs here. Only gets the restrict on the FCC and the A Ravi.
I'm wondering if the Cerise is missing some effectiveness because she got resisted twice now.
Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure.
So I honestly, at this point, I can't tell if like the Cerise is a little bit low on the effective side or Tatsu's units are just built that well.
Here comes some
yeah.
pain. Although the two characters that are low are both pretty protected right now. One behind immunity and one behind invulnerability.
We're gonna look for the
Or not
mischance
immunity,
buff on Kayron
invuln.
here, so that's
Yeah.
gonna be the big one. Manages to land the mischance on Kayron, so that's gonna kind of neuter, like severely hampen what the Kayron wants to do, unless he is a god.
Oh, does not kill. Doesn't kill. Doesn't really matter all that much because he didn't have anybody that was going to be revived anyways. That was just a hopeful kill to finish off the crowd.
This is gonna hurt a lot. That's 3 defense breaks. Am I seeing that right?
I believe so, yeah. Yep, 3 of them.
That's
Still-
surprisingly little damage to the APOC. I expected a lot more damage there with the defense breakup.
So Cerise, I know we talked about it earlier, is actually on Guiding Light. It looks like they did decide to opt into that as opposed
Just
to
didn't proc that first turn.
Miss Confilier.
All right, do you rip the S3 and hope that you don't miss? Yes, you do. Aww.
Unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. Gonna lose Kayron as a result, probably. Unless...
We don't have stun up, right, with Cerise? Or... Oh, we do.
No, she does, because she started off with it. Gets resisted.
wow.
Resists it.
Not like this.
That's unfortunate. Oh my gosh, this is actually a very, very close last round. I was not expecting to have like such a close last one, but I guess I should have been because we did go 1-1 so far. These guys have been killing it. This is
Very
awesome.
simple. Just get the dual attack here. Easy. Oh my god.
He got it,
Dual
but-
attack.
Gets it, but gets the counter right afterwards. Okay.
Wait, right here, right here. Soulburn S1, double crit on both. Easy. Easy game, easy life. Just
Just not. Oh
Even
my
if he
God.
landed the crit on the Ravi.
Oh my goodness.
that.
What a
That
nail
right
biter.
there.
What a
That right
last
there.
game
Ooh.
to then see Kayron have to take it out like that. Man, dude, very hard fought. Well done to Tatsuni and to Tenbird. It does look like Tatsuni is going to be moving on to tomorrow. So we're going to head back over to the analyst desk and let them talk through that, especially that last game. What the heck?
Yo, I have to be honest, there were definitely some exciting games there, but that last round was probably the most exciting one I've seen for a while there. That last game was hype and definitely screaming on the side here. But on that note, game 1, let's hear from Tiber what his thoughts are on game 1 and about how that Arbiter Vildred being taken out quickly was a deciding factor there.
So definitely a Clash of Titans. Both of these are very well known, very respected RTA players. Absolutely insane matches with absolutely insane gear being showed off as well. Round one, to sort of give like a quick play-by-play that I think may have cost things. We saw that the Kayron outsped and got turn one for the entire battlefield, which is good because he was able to kill a Vildred and then LQC followed up to kill again. However, without another counter, like, Evolve Cecilia Barriers, for example, or Moonlight Haste, the damage was already done, even though he got rid of the Arbiter Vildred. He took an immense amount of damage because of it, that Alencia was able to follow up on and kill off and cost you the Maid Revive. However, I don't know his stats, obviously, but the fact that he was a turn 1 Kayron, not a super speed Kayron that we saw, I believe, lightly. He did fail to kill on a critical turn on a defense broken, but also defense buffed Alencia. And that was a really cool interaction to see, in the backline, we were, jumping in our seats when SSB lives on 200 something HP, counters, lands the armor break on an Earth unit before Kayron at 0 HP is about to S3. But then he doesn't kill, and that's partially a testament to Tatsumi's gear, but also a testament to maybe if Kayron was a little bit slower but had more damage investment, would that have changed the tide of battle? I think it might have, but without seeing the stats, we can't say for sure. Outstanding games. I'll shut up now, but outstanding games from both players.
Definitely. Thank you for that. That definitely would have been outstanding. That definitely would have made a difference if the Kayron maybe was on even a different artifact instead of, as we saw, Moonlight Dreamblade. But
Knife, for example, Ellie has that.
Yeah. And game 2. All right, Panshri, let's hear your thoughts on game 2 and how that brought the change over, making the match to 1-1 there.
That game 2 was definitely all about the LQC. That was an LQC spotlight. I don't think I could give enough credit to her to even say that she carried that entire fight herself on her back. For sure, based on the drafts, we actually saw Tenbird actually draft pretty aggressively, starting off with the DN and then going straight into the RB FCC and going everything else. Tatsuni actually going straight into more of the Bruiser. Even though Bruiser, Tatsuni didn't draft any kind of sustain whatsoever, so it was more like it wasn't exactly going to be a drawn out fight. It was who's going to kill who first in that kind of situation. As we actually saw here, Tenbird was actually able to snipe down the Ravi really quickly with her S3, and that was actually a surprise to actually see an LQC being able to one-shot. Not she's also a counter LQC though. That's more interesting, right? Knowing that she's actually on counter, it's actually a surprise that LQC actually has enough damage that she was actually able to one-shot the Ravi. Another thing was that the most crucial factor about that entire game was just one counter from LQC brought up immunity to stop her from being shut down. The S3, the Dizzy didn't exactly get to turn her off anytime soon. And with Tatsu losing his Ravi, he didn't have enough damage from there to do anything further. Zian was able to cycle. I believe the RB didn't exactly died at all. And from there, that entire round was just overturned.
Yeah, I definitely can't give enough credit to that counter LQC. That little Queen Charlotte put in a lot of work there. A lot of people definitely underestimate her, but this also requires you to have really good gear there to make use of her, for sure. And on that note, game 3. Tyler, once in love, let's hear your thoughts on game 3 there, being such a close match.
As you know, Tenbird's on my team, so I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat watching this Cerise get 15%ed repeatedly. I talked to Tenbird and I asked him and both Tatsuni, about the RAS, and he says that the RAS is not built high effect resist, so getting unlucky a couple times is just never a fun time. But the draft was actually really, really strong. It was pretty balanced, I think. Had Tenbird hit the stun at least one of the 2 times, I think he would have maybe had a little bit more in favor. Obviously, the RB having the miss chance is always going to be really, really nice. Not missing into the Charon, since we know that it's on Dreamblade. But it's tough. It's tough. These guys are like the top of the top. Playing against these guys is just unbelievably strong, right? You're looking at like the best level of play. You're looking at levels of play where people are literally picking Crowd, DN, SSB, Ruel, first 4, because they are the strongest, right? This is something you don't quite see in lower ranks. You don't see it in, you don't even see it at like Champion. Like you see this once you start pushing into Legend. But I think the most notable thing was the counter Little Queen Charlotte this match. On top of having like the counter set for the consistent immunity for her skill 1, especially in the second match against the Dizzy, having the 50% defense pen plus the bonus damage from being a dark unit against that A-Ravi, that one shot on A-Ravi was just hands down the reason he won the first match.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that there. And once again, that big credit to the LQC in a lot of those games that they had to be banned. All right, let's
also to
get
note,
into
the
new draft.
misconfig on Cerise is really good. It's really, really good. It is totally worth running if you don't have a max skylight.
All right, yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely a good artifact there. And Ark, let's hear about this draft here.
Oh man, guys, we're getting to watch Tryhard in real life versus Setsuna, which is pretty neat. Right off the bat, these pick band. We got a Basar and a Lencia gone right off the bat. What do you guys make of this, Sirkar and Lilac?
Ooh, Sir Carl. I'll hand this one off to Lilac unless he's busy right now.
No, I'm here.
Bro, you busy?
No, I'm right here.
Oh,
Well,
okay, cool.
I guess people just don't like to play with Basar, right? Basar, you know, pretty messed up unit. Dispels, unbuffable, always gets the crown proc. He also smells kind of bad. No one really likes dealing with Basar. So understandable with the Basar here. Alencia ban is pretty interesting. Alencia ban, well, we see now why the Alencia was banned, because we see the maid there, right? So that's kind of like probably why he decided to go for that. And he probably felt more confident about picking the maid to see both dispellers, like 2 of the most, favorite dispellers, gone from the game, gone from the match, right?
Yeah.
And
No, it's interesting.
opens up with Dizzy. So yet again, we see Dizzy picked without any support. Well, there's the support. And
There it is.
Dizzy has been surprisingly not doing that well in the tournament so far.
I would
Yeah,
agree.
good point. Not super impactful. You mentioned.
Actually,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna ask too. I wonder what is the win percentage so far on Dizzy. I'd have to almost like watch back on all the things. Have we seen Dizzy win any games? I'm trying to think. Like,
yeah, there was that 1 or 2 games where Dizzy popped off and completely destroyed the enemy, and then every other
right.
time, people just knew how to play around Dizzy, and a lot of that play around involves having immunity.
Just having immunity, yeah, and stalling out that first turn.
All right, here we go. First round, jumping right into it. This one's between Tryhard and Setsunasa, which is Level Up Together team versus Panshui, I believe. Number 1 from Panshui, number 2 from Level Up Together.
Gets the stun on the first turn.
Maid's going to do her S3, get up the attack buff. Quickly, so Charles is going to have attack buff for this S3, as well as you'll notice like a couple different characters are going up again in front, but most of them they're getting up their buffs a little bit later, unfortunately.
Do you even go for the S3 here?
He doesn't opt
Guess
to.
the answer
Yeah.
is no.
Interesting. You mean just to kind of like force them backwards to knock them back?
Oh well, the thought process here is if you go for the S3 and it doesn't hurt that much, then you're just giving the SSB free procs, right? Because effectively, if you went for the S3 on Lilius, you kind of get screwed with the FCC S3 here, because then she would just retaliate with S2, and that just gets rid of your skill nullifier. So I think he was thinking about this FCC S3 turn. That's why he didn't go for the S3 on Lilius. Also, there weren't that many debuffs to be cleansed. But yeah, we get it removed anyway. So we're gonna see what this S10E can do without attack up. If he gets the kill here, that's gonna be pretty huge.
That, wow, does get the kill. Does get the kill.
Mhm.
Still hanging back. This is going to be a pretty big S3 just because we do have attack buff up on the
Let's
SSB.
see the damage.
Yep. Oh, dude, that looks pretty painful. But the S10E manages to survive.
That's true.
And since there's no unbuffable on the S10E, DN can opt to go for the S3 if she wants to. Just won't heal anything.
Oh, doesn't though. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know which is the right play at this point too. But with that, I would have thought initially, do you go for the S2 just to cleanse like the choice was, or do you go the opposite route like you said, kind of like S3 into, well, I don't think we're going to get much of a heal off this anyways. Actually, for what it's worth, you do get the effective healing from the shielding, so it probably was still the right call.
Oh, maybe he was thinking about the SSB S2 right here. But otherwise, I think if you lose your DN before giving attack up to the S10E, it's gonna be really difficult, right? Because you are a little bit behind. Things don't look super good for you, but you still have to play to your outs, even no matter how bad your alts look.
Yeah, let's see Lilac instead of early yields. Maybe we'll see. It's looking real rough right now though for Setsu.
That okay.
But don't count out an S10E with attack buff. And also keep in mind the S10E here does have souls. So she does get a 2-turn here, right? Like
So she had just gone. Was there any reason why you wouldn't have used the soul burn on the last turn?
Well, he was waiting for the DN
Attack up.
and also possibly trying to stall out the res buff.
That's fair. The only reason I ask is because of the defense break, right? So if you had burnt, then don't you get rid of the defense break fully, and then you actually don't have to worry about like the incoming damage afterwards?
That is potentially a good point, but
even with the soul burns for the Spectani, there's no chance here. I don't think.
It's looking very difficult.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim. That's it right there. Tryhard taking game 1 over Setsuna. Holy moly. What do you do to adjust your draft against that? I know from watching the little bit that I have of Tryhard and seeing where he sits generally in the rankings in Epic 7, that's a scary boy. That's a scary man.
Yeah, that was intense because Setsu's no slouch.
No, agreed. I watched Setsu literally like crush through tons of opponents to get to where he is today. So that was crazy. Not to mention taking out Platypie earlier today too. So with back against the wall, if you're in Setsuna's position right now and you're looking at Tryhard's picks and bans and what he's picked so far, what do you do to sort of counter this? Like, what is the steps that you have to take right now to go, okay, Tryhard has a very solid pick. He obviously has really good gear on top of the solid picks, but I assume Setsuna also has very, very good gear as well. What are you doing to kind of manage this? Because at this point, you're having to do some damage mitigation just to make it to game 3, and that was, I don't know, I wouldn't say convincing, but relatively convincing that Tryhard did a pretty solid job. So what do you think about that?
I think the first thing I would do is I would think about the SSB and how much she did last game, right? Because outside of the SSB, there weren't the rest of them. If the SSB didn't do as much damage as she did, I think Setsu would have been in a much better position. Between the maid, the Cerise, and the SSB, and I think Cerise herself is really, really annoying, but I don't think Cerise can single-handedly carry the pace of a game, whereas something like a really well-built SSB can. So we do see that the SSB is taken out here.
Yep. Before that was Alencia, correct?
Yes, before that was Alencia. So who was first pick in the previous match? Did you guys remember?
Yeah, so first pick, previous match would have been Setsuna. So this time Tryhard picks the A Vildred first, which is a pretty safe pick these days, I'd say. I mean,
I'd say so.
I mean, that's coming from the perspective of I don't have the character, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty safe.
We have
pretty
a
nice.
Watcher Shuri.
Ooh,
interesting. So Lilac,
fun.
what's besides speed imprint? What's the deal? Tell us the deal about Watcher Shuri.
Well, Watcher Shuri has a very big gun, and he fires a very big shot from that very big gun, and somebody dies.
Okay.
So who's he looking at targeting here?
Yeah, where's the
Well,
snipe?
it's gonna depend a little bit on his final pick, and then I mean, he pretty much takes out whoever he wants, right? Because if it doesn't look like there's a lot of big damage coming out on the side of Setsuna, which it doesn't look like it, I'll be very surprised if Tryhard like doesn't ban the Dizzy, the Alencia, for example.
Yeah,
And then
agreed. There's like
Watcher Shuri just
literally no
proceeds to
damage but the Alencia.
delete someone and then fight 4v3, which is very, very attractive.
It feels like Setsuna is kind of going for a like, I gotta get Max Frenzy on this one, because
Yeah,
this is a very, very condomed up team, like, to say the least. Extreme amounts.
Yep, the Alencia
And
gets taken out. There's
ooh.
not too much damage left. Watcher Shuri gets let through. So if this Watcher Shuri has any, investment in speed at all with, with a portrait or even Iron Fan in this case, he could easily just make this a 3v4 right off the bat.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that's such a rough position to be in right off the bat.
Yeah, I think if the FCC can get some traction though, and it hits the later stages,
It's
not over yet.
DN. Oh my gosh, stun on the DN too to like stop all of the.
Oh, that's gonna be a little bit funny here, because so he's gonna do that. Elena's gonna proc. Elena gets the tome, and Elena S3s, right? And that's gonna block out a lot of what Tryhard wants to do on the first turn.
Right. But I assume right now what Tryhard is doing is not going for a first turn comp though. Like, this is all about like, listen, I let your Elena go through. You're not trying to one turn on Elena, right?
Does not go for the S3, so he is confident that he can take the damage coming in. Oh, I see. Because the stun was the only debuff on the end, so going for the S1 would let the end pick up, put up her anti-crit, which then it becomes a big gamble, right? Because when Watcher Shuri fires that gun at you, it's quite literally a 50-50. If he crits, he deletes someone. If he doesn't crit, he does not delete someone. So we're gonna see if he decides to go for this 50-50.
It's so interesting, right? To think about the high level of gameplay. Like, and I realize when we say it like this, it just seems so obvious. Of course, you would want DN and her anti-crit to be able to deal with something like a Watcher Shuri. But to see it picked like so early and going like, I got to be able to pick some stuff around this to make sure that this girl does not get banned, like, is so smart, like so good. These guys are so good at this game.
So the Watcher Shuri does crit, yeah, but it wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough.
So I think unless the RB Res does a lot of work here, if he can keep the FCC alive, I actually think Setsu will have the edge.
Turns out his units were strong enough.
I don't think gear was ever in question at this point for these guys too. So it's really a matter of like, can we get through and can we survive the things? Because I would imagine both of these guys are sitting on a ton of gear at this point as well.
Right. So if I can get ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Watcher Shuri's target was the best target there?
Going for the FCC over
someone like the DN or the Alencia, who probably has a little bit less HP to work with.
I don't think it was the safe play, but that would have been the deciding play, right?
I think so. Maybe he was going for the extra crit chance effect because there was light versus dark.
True,
right?
that is true, and he did get the crit. It wasn't even close though.
Right. So it's definitely hindsight kind of thing, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be something the analyst might talk about.
Yeah. Interesting. So they're full tanked up at this point. Elena is going to get her S2 off, which is going to get them pretty close to topped off. Not quite there yet. Gosh, this is the time where you're like, my Arbiter builder doesn't do anything. What's going on? Can we please buff Arby? Like, what's going on?
Feels good.
I know.
Right,
I know. Ooh, does
unbreakable
resist
wall.
the stun? Okay. Resist the stun against a fire unit. That extra effect resist, putting in the work.
The one time you really appreciate speed down on your own units is when they're all invulnerable.
Can we just like make note too as well that the Dizzy did just get the stun right afterwards on her S1? That's so funny.
Now, do you guys think Arby will be able to lap into his ult again?
I mean, there's a decent chance.
2 turns?
I mean, Setsuna's definitely looking at that too.
Here comes the burn, S3. Descending blade. gosh, it like stings, but it also tickles a little when you look at just like the sheer amount of healing and damage reduction that they have on that side. Setsuna is not going down without a fight, guys. This is like sort of a partial turnaround going, okay, your buffs are down. How do I now capitalize on this?
I am quite impressed that managed to land so many debuffs onto the Elena with the ER
With
buff
the
up.
effect resist. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
point.
no kidding. And that's huge though because of the speed debuff.
Right, because the one unit you actually want to cycle would be your Elena, just so she can get multiple S2s off. Because the S2 is very valuable against this team.
That was like a really necessary stun at this point too on the Lilius, making sure that the Lilius is not able to cleanse off any of these debuffs.
My goodness, Setsu just doesn't even get to play the game.
I mean, when you pick slow units against, against a bunch of faster people with debuffs, it's actually incredibly difficult to tank both debuffs and raw damage, right? And Tryhard pretty much has it all. He has debuffs, he has good damage from RB, he even has pure damage in the form of Watcher Shuri. We're about to see Watcher Shuri reload his gun real soon.
Yep.
If he even gets to.
Yeah, it might not even matter.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Holy moly. And Setsuna.
Wow.
Valiant
GG's.
attempt on the second. I really love that you adjusted the draft hugely at the end there. That was massive. But we're going to go send this back to the analyst desk and let them kind of talk this one through.
All right, thank you. That was, I have to say, round two definitely was a bit of back and forth there. Was a little bit surprising there. But let's talk about round one there. Bit of a misplay, I think we saw from Setsuna. Could have definitely gone in their favor, but Pantry, let's have you expand on that for us.
All right, so talking about the misplays here. Setsuna, definitely, I believe he had Taga health on his S Tenebria here. He actually held off on those souls on multiple occasions. Kind of led to his downfall. The turn order here was actually quite bad for him. The SSB, typically known to be very slow, actually came right behind and actually denied the entire game. Because the SSB was so slow, she was sitting around on immunity the entire time. Wouldn't be able to be killed whatsoever. But another thing was that Setsuna never actually even took the chance to try to maybe kill the SSB or anything else. Probably because then he was assuming the SSB might have been very, very tanky. In this case, we actually only saw her to only be about 11k HP, if I spotted correctly. So if I want to really call it out, if Setsuna actually used any kind of soul burn, let's say, for example, whether that be on DN or S Tenebria, there probably could have been a chance where it could have been turned around, especially after the Charles actually fell. There's actually one instance where he didn't do it, but then there's another where he actually didn't soul burn on the DN. And we actually saw the DN cycled right after her S3 and could have actually done a barrier as well so that he could have been protected. Except that didn't happen and Setsuna fell because of it.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a misplay there, I think. I think it definitely could have turned in the favor there if that was actually done well. Game two was a lot closer. We saw that definitely in the early bits in Setsuna's favor with Tryhard getting cut and a lot better plays and a lot of good choices done by Setsuna there. Tiber, you want to tell us what happened there?
Yeah, sure. Like from the get-go, you saw Setsuna hover his bans towards the end of the phase, and he ended up banning Charles, which I think is the correct decision in this comp. You saw Tryhard commits to the 50-50 gamble on the Watcher Shuri, hit onto the ball into Celia, and it didn't even come close to killing. By denying an attack buff, as well as a potential stripper, and just Charles doing Charles things, I think was very smart of him. In addition to that, on his first turns, basically, with Elena cutting in, choosing to S1 to set up for cleansing the DN, getting the anti-crit buff for the entire team, was a very smart play rather than S3. I do think that was a very smart move on Setsuna's part. And the question was thrown like, do we think that Fonsa City was necessarily the correct target choice for Watcher Shuri? Personally, I think the Soul Weavers, either Dien or Lena, would have been a better target because they may have been a more likely kill. But at its core, even though we saw the strong showing, I think there's some issues with the draft that I think Tana can expand upon.
Yeah, so with the draft, Tryhard had a great draft, to be perfectly honest. He had a lot of different things that connected well together. So having the Cerise to deal with all of the debuffs, especially the early FSSE, to go with the Dizzy, but also having the Charles to set up the Watcher Shuri. Both of those are really nice. Something that was really worth mentioning. So I agree, he did make the right the right ban with the Charles. Something worth mentioning though is that the Cerise has Andre's crossbow, which removes souls, which is really good against the Fallen Cecilia actually, because you can't soul burn the Fallen Cecilia skill 3, and you also can't soul burn the Elena or the DN. So you have a lot of advantage there. So in this case, basically, I think that the biggest problem with Setsuna's draft was honestly just not enough damage, because he wasn't able to like repeatedly go through that RB and go through fast enough. And the moment, another thing was the artifact setup on the on Setsuna's team didn't account for enough cleansing to actually deal with the Dizzy and the Cerise together.
Yeah, I think definitely part of the thing is the Andre's crossbow, I feel like definitely made a big impact eventually as the game went on. Not to mention with the dual attacks there, it definitely held Setsuna in place. All right, so we're okay. Looks like we're waiting for the picks and bans there, so we have a bit of time here. Tyler, did you want to just also expand a little bit more on what you were talking about there?
Which part, the cleansing or
the cleansing there?
Yeah, so I think you need more cleansing between the DN and the Cerise. Something like a Stella Harpa could be really good. Counter set could be really good if you have that on the Elena. Just the problem is there's so much rotation between the Dizzy and the Cerise. Both of them have slow debuff, and the Cerise, when she skill 3s, gives herself 50% combat readiness, similar to Lilius's, and then her skill 1 also gives her combat readiness. So if she's at like 270, 280 speed plus the Watcher Shuri and print, she's going to be 290. She's rotating like 3 times as fast as you are if you're on a slow team, right? So you basically, I'll miss you, Penshui. But yeah, so basically you need to have some way to mitigate the amount of debuffs that are there, because it's not just like slow debuff coming out. It's slow debuff, blind, attack break, and then stuns. Like there's so much coming in over and over because the Cerise is able to rotate for free, that the Andre's crossbow is super effective against like the skill nullifier soul burn. It's really good against the Elena and the DN.
Yeah, definitely what we would call a heavy control team that locks your opponent down there. All right, and we're on to the picks and bans. Let's get this next match underway.
Thank you very much. Hey, Panjui, not your fault, dude. Not your fault. That was weird. Somebody's emulator froze, so we're back into it. Guys, welcome back. We're going to be seeing Suck for the first time versus Jinx, who is once again going in and opting into heavy cleave. Is this going to be fast matches like we saw in the last one? Because, God, I love watching fast, crazy, ridiculous matches. This is exciting.
It could be Arch, and if you notice, Suck pre-banned the CDOM, so either he knew Jinx beforehand or what he plays, or he's, like we mentioned, if you have the buy, a lot of intel.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely true. So it makes you wonder, was Suck already pre-preparing for a cleave and what to do to deal with it? Because, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We are definitely seeing a Basar, a Vildred, and a SSB. How do those in general deal with cleave, out of curiosity? Because they're all generally squishy-er units, correct? Are we just hoping for a speed check?
Well, before we get into that, I was so excited for the haste prevent, and then we got debated. Well, you know how Basar works. So if Basar outspeeds, Basar completely shuts down a lot of what you want to do. Arbiter Vildred comes back, and then he does the sending blade things.
Yeah.
SSB is a little bit of a surprise here. Maybe he just has a really tanky SSB. But I think that by giving the enemy both Flitica and Alox, there are so much cycle potential that you have to pick your units very, very carefully, because it might just be a very good chance that the enemy is just gonna take like 6 turns before you even get to move.
Right.
So, and by last picking the judge, you're pretty much like sort of soft forcing some sort of like ban decision here. Goes ahead and bans the A-Lots.
That's super interesting to me, because I was thinking about with Alox and Cerise, does it, since they kind of don't really synergize terribly well together, it seems weird to get rid of those two.
I mean, if you do let the A-Lots and Judge go through, the Cerise doesn't have to restrict. The Cerise just taps you, and then Judge just comes and like cleaves you to all hell.
Well, that's what's in. Yeah, I'm actually interested to. I'm interested that Judge Kisei even made it through. I thought of all the things, I would have thought Judge Kisei would have been my expected ban watching it, but I'm obviously not as good as these guys, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I feel like she's gonna do some straight up work if she gets a chance on this.
Oh, the Judge does have a little bit of speed on her own, so with the Cerise speed down, she should be, able to do some work here. I'm surprised the crowd was picked into this, because unless your crowd has super high F-res, your crowd is going to get reset, and he is just pretty much a fat body with the S1 provoke.
Right. So with
I'm also surprised that he decides to soul burn.
Yeah, me too. Not having any souls now for your Judge Kisei is an interesting choice, because now you can't S2 into S3.
Right, and usually, I would have said that maybe that Judge is just there to S3 or something, but then there is an Arbiter in play. So I legitimately thought that, using the S2 into S3 would have been a better answer for the Arbiter.
Yep.
But maybe he's not super confident on the damage that he can do.
Okay.
And rightfully so.
Yep,
right?
rightfully
'Cause that
so.
would not
Doesn't kill the A Vildred, so it seems okay this time around. Smart choice then. Jinx really understanding what his characters can and can't do. It's one miss buff on the Tenebria.
It's gonna do a lot of.
Oh,
My goodness.
Gosh. All right, now here's the question, because Cerise is such a pain in the butt sometimes to deal with. Does Cerise have a chance here, or is it over?
Yes, she does. Okay,
She does,
so,
yeah.
So if she kills the Arbiter is going to come back. She keeps her skill nully, right? Right? So now she doesn't take the damage. She does, however, get mischanced. So if she lands the stun and then proceeds to do like, a lot of really, really cool stuff, then Cerise can possibly resist the mischance. All right, so now we get to see the real play.
That's smart. That was smart to do the S3 there. Anyways, knowing you weren't going to get the damage, but trying for the mischance, hoping just to kind of
100%. Yeah, to go for the mischance. Got resisted though.
Very good play. All right,
so,
Arbiter Vildred versus Cerise.
Well,
that is some serious damage.
What does she have available?
Does she have S2? Here's the S2.
That's a stun.
Stun. Gets the stun.
Him.
Okay.
S3s.
Oh my
this is
goodness.
Hype.
Guys,
Cerise,
Cerise, bad limited champion. Don't pull. Terrible choice. You never want this character. She clearly does nothing.
Just keep hitting. Just keep hitting him.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I freaking
Just
love
keep
this
hitting
character.
him.
Come on, baby. Let's
One
go.
more lap.
And lap.
That's the stun.
That's
Another
it.
stun. That's another stun.
Another stun. It doesn't land. Oh, okay.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't
because
matter.
Yeah,
Still
yeah.
fine anyways.
speed
Still
down,
outlaps
so
him.
He just got lapped.
Guys.
Oh my god.
Cerise takes that fight on an. Oh
What?
my goodness.
What a
Jinx.
clutch.
Congrats,
What a
man.
clutch.
That
Oh
last
my
lap was actually
goodness.
insane.
That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Like that. Oh man, we're about to enter the realm of super huge brain plays. That was amazing. I love that character. I've been.
I guess that
recently playing
question
Cerise.
that answered your question, Arch.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh my
Imagine
gosh.
doubting Cerise.
That was so sick, dude. Okay, so that means we've got Jinx one up on Suck right now. What does Suck do to kind of change this up? Like what? Okay, do we just ban out Cerise and just go with what we had? Because it felt pretty strong anyways. We're gonna go right into pick bans, but talk me through it.
Well, I think that in this case, if you have some sort of counterplay, like we discussed before. You don't give them both the Flitica and the A-Lots, right? So you can already get rid of one piece of the combo by picking one of them yourself. And also, I think that the SSB, we raised a question mark on the SSB on what she would provide last game.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem like she did too much except just kind of.
Did you guys catch her artifact? Because she did not have drink, I don't think. I'm not,
did she even get to move?
She just had one counter, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Wait, was it a counter set?
No, just SSB.
Oh, sorry, the S2 counter. Gotcha. Okay.
Right, so
interesting. So it's interesting you'd say that because we got a CDOM ban as opposed to either an Oxlots or you were saying like F Litica and or like it's not. It's still very much possible to do a very similar
the
thing.
The CDOM
again.
ban is fine because the triple combo between CDOM, Flitica, and A-Lots is just so extremely potent. So just banning out one of those three pieces and then possibly denying another piece and then post-banning the final piece can really shut down a lot of cleave options.
So question, why CDOM then maybe over A-Lots? Because A-Lots offers up the opportunity for Judge Kisei, whereas if you get rid of A-Lots, you don't actually have the chance for Judge Kisei.
I think it's just really scary because against something like A-Lot's Judge, if there is no other CR manipulation in play, you can possibly just ban either A-Lots or the Judge, and then you are not dealing with insane amounts of damage. Whereas somebody like CDOM, like the Cerise, if the Cerise is fast enough, she enables the CDOM.
That's
if
a good
you
point.
Pick any other character, like even a really fast Charles can enable the CDOM. So CDOM is just extremely scary, right? Because where Judge deletes a group of enemies, CDOM deletes single enemies.
That's super good. And the other thing too, like thinking about this afterwards, is like also by keeping the A-Lots, you're also saying, hey, I saw your Cerise before, and your Cerise doesn't terribly well synergize with the A-Lots. I'm gonna get rid of the CDOM too. So interesting choices. Like I actually, God, dude, these high level plays are like, I basically insta yield when I run into this guy. These guys are so good.
We're seeing the Montmorency cleave about to come out. Oh, just kidding.
No, decides to opt into Judge Kisei because the scythe isn't quite as big on Montmo.
Yeah, last match is definitely a contender for the match of the night. Let's see if this next one is equally exciting.
For real. Dang, dude, I would never have expected. I guess also we are. Again? What's that?
I was just asking. Do you think he's gonna pick the Cerise again?
Interesting. His two. I mean, does he need more damage threats than just the Judge Kisei and the Tenebria?
I think he will. It depends on the last two picks, but so far Suck has the same units, right?
I mean, with the Cerise showing like in game one, how can you not pick
right?
I mean, I kind of agree, especially since it's not banned. It's not gonna like it's. I mean, it doesn't hurt A-Lots. It really doesn't hurt. I think if he just uses the S2 and stuff until there's something else there. I think the question will be because what got banned last time? Wasn't it A-Lots that got banned?
Yes.
Okay, so I wonder if this time Suck ends up saying like, no, pick it again. I'm gonna leave both of them up and see if you do just as well this time. Picks Dizzy. Okay, interesting.
So no Cerise.
I don't know.
All right, explain this one to me. What is happening here? I don't get it.
A lot more will be clear once the CR bar comes into play.
Okay.
The Dizzy buffs sticking onto ML can really like shuts down what he wants to do. But yeah, in this instance, I think he might opt to ban out the Elena. Turns out he does not.
Yeah, goes for Bazaar. Interesting.
And that's two rounds now that he banned the Bazaar. Maybe he really respects the speed on Suck's Bazaar. So this one is definitely a little bit more tricky to navigate because you don't want to proc Elena's S2 at a bad time for you, and you don't want to into ML Ken because he's just going to kick you. So we'll see how Jinx navigates this one. Because the Elena is going to get a turn.
Elena gets a little bit of heal, brings everybody back to full. Drops the S3 most likely just to give everybody immunity. Or, sorry, invulnerability.
Invulnerability and Evfres, right? So if this Dizzy is on Violin, then we can see some potential here. Okay, so the Dizzy has 10k HP. That's going to be a little bit lower than most bulky Dizzies, which means some of her stats are going to be someplace else, and we're going to get to see where her stats are.
Hopefully effectiveness.
Hopefully effectiveness, because if she does get the double violin proc here, she can very well just strip off both buffs. Doesn't get a single violin proc, so it doesn't look like it's a violin. Could be a crown.
Gets the counterattack here.
Did manage to stick the debuffs through the ER and did manage to stun the Arbiter Vildred. If that was what he was actually going for, that was super big brain.
Well, we'll see if it plays out here pretty soon. Athletica going to S3 and try and knock back the turns. Is resisted, okay, on the S3.
Yeah, so in this case, the SSB's S2 is pretty big, right? Because now it gets rid of the skill null, which means now your whole team is very vulnerable to Arbiter Vildred. And even if you discount everything else around the Arbiter Vildred, because at some point he is going to Descending Blade you, and then when that happens, what do you do?
Do you guys think it's a Rosa or what's on the SSB on?
Gets 2 stuns. Ooh.
Yeah, so Judge can't really do much here.
You can't do a lot of damage, that's for sure. Does she try to get the S3?
I don't think so, because if she does, she's just going to get murdered by ML Ken.
Oh my god.
So I'm surprised he went for the Sovereign.
Okay. Yeah, me too, because that's
basically
unfortunately a waste
spent
of souls.
20 souls doing not too much.
Right. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, that's one of those things, like, I've only recently learned doing cleave myself that's like one of the things where if you're going Judge Kisei into ML Ken, you gotta reset before you bother burning your S2, because that's such a huge risk that you're gonna not crit. I mean, essentially you're hoping to crit most of the time because you're gonna do tons of damage with that character.
And it's starting to look like Jinx doesn't really have an answer to Descending Blade now, because even if he manages to kill everything around the Arbiter Vildred, I don't think he has a very clean and feasible way to survive the Retaliation S3 that's going to come.
Right.
And it might not even come to that.
Yeah, I don't even think it's going to come to that. With the SSB up as well, with the Retaliation coming in here, as well as the counterattacks from ML Ken, that's going to be a complete shutdown. Suck, bringing it back 1-1 now in round 2.
Very convincing. Good thing Jinx clutched out that Cerise in the first round. Let's see what kind of adjustments he can make here.
Yeah, no kidding. That was a huge swap up from what we just saw. So I honestly have to give a lot of credit to the Suck. Literally being okay with losing the first round. Total mental fortitude back in and saying like, that's okay. I got something to deal with that next time around. And that looked good. That looked so good and so clean, in fact, that like I actually have no idea how round 3 may actually look on this. So this is actually exciting to me. I feel like we're almost gonna have to reset. And the beauty of this is, if you're watching Code and Jay, they're going to have to pull out something different here in round 3. Wink, wink. Maybe pay attention to what happens here, because there's going to be a lot of new information, I feel, that probably comes out in this next section, because this is nuts, dude. Getting into Game 3 this early in the tournament, those guys were a pretty solid, like, really solid first match. Let's see. They're still doing... They're getting set up. They're good. They're getting set up, boys. Yeah. Speaking of kind of this next match, how different... I'm trying to think. How different was that? What were we looking at in round 1 compared to round 2? I know the analyst desk is already, like, kind of reeling through this in themselves, because they've already had to see now both things. Like, that felt so different. Like, that felt like Jinx had such a solid, commanding feel in the first one that by the time we got to the round 2 with Suck, that was shockingly different. Like, just basically flipped the whole thing over.
I would attribute the big difference, just off the top of my head, to a really well-built Elena, right? Because we see that even without the S2 proc, the Elena's speed was pretty up there, right? She was right behind Athletica, well above the others. And then the reason why the Arbiter Vildred didn't completely murder the opposition in the first round was thanks to, Skill Nullifier, a combination of Skill Nullifier and Invincibility, which allowed the Cerise to eventually, get off scot-free, and a bunch of resistances, right? So that's what allowed her to get the 1v1. in this case, the Elena's S3 protected the SSB from dying, allowing the SSB to get rid of the skill nullifier, rendering the ML Ken nearly untouchable. And then that really shut out a lot of options for
So
Jinx.
like you're saying pretty much the high speed on the Elena with the tome pretty much sealed the deal from the get-go.
I think definitely a big difference here. Like I think it's a combination of both the Elena and the ML Ken, but the fact that the Elena was there protected a lot of things and really like closed out the options.
So if you're Jinx right now, is that what you're seeing as well? Is that going to be something that you're going to ban out, or do you just try and play around that? Because I don't typically see Elena bans, but Elena's not a terrible ban if you want to play kind of cleavy, right? Like,
have we seen Jinx shift away from the kind of cleave setup?
I'm trying to think.
He usually picks pretty similar, right?
Yeah, to a degree. It was more. I would say it was like more damage based for sure. It felt like in that last one. It's kind of how it looked to me. How about you, Lilac? What do you think?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead, Cart.
I was asking, have we seen Jinx choose like completely different setups besides the Flitic Ox JKC kind of style?
I don't think so, right? Because I mean, in all of the games that we've seen so far, Jinx has opted to go for a very aggressive, very high damage, fast games.
So then he needs to have an answer for Elena, right? Or at least
I think he needs to have an answer for Basar, because in both matches it felt like being forced to ban the Basar, right? Because does he just automatically know that he's gonna get outsped by the Basar?
I guess we're gonna find out.
Yeah, I mean,
Guess we're gonna find out. And in both rounds, enemy has banned your Basar, so you pick that, and then
he picks up the Oxlots too. So he picks up the Oxlots and the Basar this time around. Interesting.
He's basically forcing Jinx to use a different strategy in this case.
Yeah.
I think without the A-Lots, it's gonna be you just straight up can't pick Judge, period. And I think the Flitica is gonna not be the best either.
I'm sort of curious to see what Jinx ends up picking out, because like it's very clear that Jinx picked Arbiter Vildred as almost like a takeaway from Suck, because Suck's been picking like that Arbiter Vildred right off the bat. So it's almost like Jinx takes one and Suck goes, okay, I'll just take what you normally pick. What do you have? What are you going to do with your Arbiter Vildred now? Like, interesting.
I'm super curious to see if Jinx is going to ban the Basar here again. Because if he does, he's pretty much letting out an A-Lots, right? And if Suck, for example, decides to pick the Judge this time, or
the
some sort of cleaver, then if he's forced to ban the Basar, then we could be, Jinx could be in some complications. We'll see.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, at this point, if you were drafting this right now, would that be like the direction you would probably go? Is like instead of a Kayron, or would you have picked the Kayron?
Oh, I think if I'm gonna pick some sort of cleaver, I'd definitely leave it at the end to sort of like give them less time to think about the ban, right? Because you've seen him ban your Basar every single time. If you pick a BBK and you threaten the BBK, especially now it's looking like Jinx has basically no mitigation on his side. If you pick a Bloodblade Karen here, does he really have an answer to that? Is he forced to ban your A-Lots?
That's interesting. BBK. So that's interesting you'd say that, because we haven't seen a BBK yet in the tournament. Are most BBKs counter or
that's
really
the thing,
slow?
right?
Really slow.
The thing
and
about Judge is that everyone knows exactly what Judge wants to do.
Right.
When you pick something like a BBK, it's not super obvious right off the bat what she wants to do, because we've seen Moonlight Dreamblade counter BBKs.
Yep.
And we've seen some sort of like bruisery BBKs, and we see just the honest, good old max damage cleave BBKs. So I think BBK in some ways is a little bit more of a more flexible pick compared to Judge. Doesn't opt to go for the cleave option though.
Yeah, it does decide on the Caesarado to kind of deal with all of these debuffs coming out, and honestly, probably a pretty solid choice. I'm assuming he's going to let most of the debuffs go through. He's probably going to ban the army. That makes sense. That makes sense. Although it does put you in a position where, yeah, if the Cerise and the Athletica get through, that is going to be a hard speed contest with just the A-Lots. Well, actually, A-Lots potentially Basar. What do you pick if you're on Jinx's side?
You just get rid of
He
the
does get the
Basar.
Basar.
There it
yeah.
is.
So yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Well, we're going to be seeing this one right off the bat and jumping in. Wait, did he just click in with A-Lots up front? No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I think he might have, actually.
Uh-oh. That's a... Uh-oh. Here we go. Now, I don't know a lot about this game, friends, but I do know that an Oxlot's in the front right position is not where you want your Oxlots to sit. So, interesting choice. I think it may have been like accidentally clicked too many times is my guess.
The Oxlots also wouldn't get too much to do here.
Well, I mean, you're never going to deny your FCC or your Caesarado extra damage, though, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's just for the
that's a
So,
misplay for sure.
We
Definitely.
might see, we might see like just a reset on the Ox. No, he doesn't. Okay, so now then the Oxlots does actually have a target, provided he lives, of course, because the RB is gonna go before him.
Yeah. All right, here goes Arby.
Yeah, because previously Oxlots has like no viable target, right? But now he gets to push up the Caesarado.
Golly, dude, these guys have so much gear. That Arby would have wiped me off the planet. What? That was awesome. Like, so Arby doesn't actually get through enough or get enough damage in there to actually put any of them down.
No way. He goes for the silence. That's insane.
So he goes for the silence, lands it on just the Athletica. And we have to now deal with an SSB S3 here right after the Oxlots. So who's he going to boost to try and deal with that SSB?
He can only boost one person because both of the other two units are restricted.
Right.
Good point.
Oh, that's a very good point. All right. This is not going to be enough to take down an SSB, though. It'll never be enough.
Oh, that is so nutty.
Does
Yeah, I
get the
don't
attack
know.
down.
So
Okay.
now, yeah. So now that he used the S3 on Caesarito, that defense break sticks, which means the Caesarito is very likely just dead.
Yeah. Doesn't.
Oh,
my
he is not dead.
Doesn't die though. What is going on?
That's pretty incredible. Did he
That
miss a
is
crit,
really
or
huge.
did I miss something?
Does he
'Cause
try
it
to crit on the
definitely
water,
felt
or does he
like-
go for the? Actually, I think this is the smart play because if you can get the Arbiter Builder down within the time that you have your invulnerability or your invincibility up, then you at least have a
Misses, but
Kayron
kill.
survival.
Yeah, Mrs.
Misses,
But still
but
enough.
kill.
Greater
Alright,
proc
I
comes
think-
out.
Yep, that's a basket proc. I don't know. It's starting to look a little bit dicey here.
Would
Definitely
agree.
some interesting plays. Can't wait to see what the analyst desk has to say about this one.
Yeah, have fun breaking down this one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, okay. Does end up yielding. All
So
right.
He just spends that whole time asleep because she
Oh my
already
goodness.
hard carried in game 1. Just taking a little nap in game 3, no biggie.
That's huge. Guys, we're going to send this back over to the
GGs.
analyst desk. Congratulations and GG's. Jinx, moving forward.
Thank you, guys. That was honestly, I think, of the whole tournament, this match itself was probably the most exciting games we've seen in a long time. Not to mention, probably most of you guys remembering that game 1 where multiple things happened that was good and surprising there. Well, just first to start off, we have the CDOM pre-ban that was instantly denying an instant snipe from them. And then after that, we have the Spectre Tenemium miss the soul burn on Crow when soul burn missed the crit on Crow, so he couldn't instantly nuke the Crow there. But that end game Cerise solo on the Arbiter Vildred was probably the most exciting thing I've seen in a while. Had me on the edge of my seats there. I think pretty smart choice there with saving the stun and actually killing the RB first. Sorry, killing the Kayron first. Because otherwise, if he didn't get the stun on Arbiter Vildred, would have left 2 people there alive. Kayron had skill 3 up. If he hit the crit, or if he has knife, there's a good chance that Cerise would have just died there. But seeing that Cerise lap the Arbiter Vildred 3 times and being able to solo that Arbiter Vildred, definitely got me hyped there. And I'll say one of the best moments, best highlights during this tournament for me there. All right, game 2. Let's hear about game 2 here, and let's see what the thoughts are with that. Once in love.
So a couple things in the draft. We saw the Elena, which was really good against the Judge Kisei setup. We saw Jinx actually take the last pick Dizzy. I was wondering if it was going to be like the Ayla setup or if it was going to be anything, super notable. The Dizzy did move in with the debuffs and stuff, but I feel like the Dizzy was kind of a weaker pick there. I think he could have also just picked Cerise again to set up for his other units. It also would have been pretty good against the Elena. But assuming that we're just going to go with the draft that he picked, I think that the biggest issue in the game 2 was actually banning the Bazaar. So when you're up the game, you have the advantage of one match. I think that your best bet is to just let it through. If it outspeeds you, you have that info for round 3. But like banning the Bazaar and leaving the Elena up is just way too risky. Like there was no way with that Elena cut, it was GG from there, right? If you're going the direction where you want to use the Judge Keys, I think you have to take the Cerise and then ban the Emma Ken, right? Because then you can restrict the Elena at least. But I don't know. It's a tough match. I think giving up, letting the Bazaar through and getting the info is probably more important. But everyone will play their own way. So, what did you think about Game 3, Mr. Panchui?
All right, so Game 3, like the caster said up front, it was kind of like hard to quite analyze, but I would like to say here the more decisive factor was definitely that if the RB didn't die, it was probably going to be over at some point. The RB actually did not fall whatsoever. He revived and he actually just ended Suck's life straight up. Another was that the Cerise actually, Jinx didn't hesitate to use the Cerise S3, knowing that the debuffs were going to get transferred anyway. But the speed down on the A lots actually denied Suck a turn for the A lots, and it allowed the RB to take one additional turn before actually falling to toss out an S3. 2 S3s from the RB was definitely enough to actually just call it from there. SSB passing all the debuffs also just wasn't exactly good enough. Jinxes did too much damage. Suck couldn't hold it in. That was it.
Yeah, all 3 matches from them, those are probably the best games, I would say, for now, that we've seen so far. Very close games, each one very good drafts, very good plays from both sides. All right, so picks and bans starting for the next match. Let's get into it.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate that, guys. Right directly into Code and Slap again, or Jay. If you guys are cheering out there, it's Jay, babes. Okay. We're about to watch a couple of tanks just like slap each other with like wet noodles, I think, is what this is looking like so far. Thoughts on this draft so far?
There is an RB at least.
Is that a tank RB with wet noodles?
That's right. Yeah, it's just a really fast, very slow. Doesn't do any damage.
Too. I see. But yeah, we do get to see a Ruel here, and we, hopefully Code will show us why Ruel is so highly valued among a lot of the players that he plays at.
Interesting. Can you fill me in? Does Code plays, I'm assuming, at legend level, just based on what I'm seeing over there?
Yes,
That's
sir.
an
He sure
interesting
does.
first pick, though, going the Ruel. Is that common in legend?
I mean, we talked about it slightly earlier about how Ruel is such a, when you have just naughty gear on Ruel, she's such an unstoppable monster, right? And we see the respect ban coming out. It bans out the Ruel, doesn't want to deal with that.
Yeah, Arc Code's actually rank 1 in Legend.
What do I know? I'm just a little bronze player. Just kidding. I'm playing in Champion now, boys. Watch out. But yeah, okay. So Code knows a few things. Got it. Heard. Interesting. So he's definitely following pretty suit with what we were seeing earlier with the tanks and the bruisers, like these tank bruiser comps. Talk to me a little bit about this. Are you able to play tank bruiser comps if you don't have an incredible gear? That was a question that I've had for a while. Like, let's say you wanted to climb yourself, because we know we're watching some big boys fight right now, and this is really amazing, but I'm actually curious about that as well. Is like, can you actually pull off a comp like what we're seeing on Code's side with even moderately mediocre gear, or do you have to have some pretty damn good gear to make that work?
Well, as someone without godlike gear, I can't speak for Lilac. I'm sure his gear is amazing. Code, I don't think we can even compare the two, Art. It's the play style of not having amazing gear. It's like even if you have amazing gear, you can't do Code's playstyle still sometimes. His units are a very, very specific build. He has them publicly shown for everybody. He has very unique stats.
Which I have to add is super cool. I really do appreciate that the people that are at the top of this game are like willing to share it, because I feel like that's going to be meta changing as time goes on. Like, to be able to share that kind of stuff is not something they have to do. So being willing to do that is super huge. So appreciate that a lot. All right. Now that we've gotten over that, let's get into the game here. Now that we're like halfway through and they've been slapping each other. Like I said, wet noodles. This is a noodle fight. It's
That wet noodle managed to crit through anti-crit buff and dunk the RB pretty hard.
true.
So that is a very, very firm wet noodle that we just witnessed.
So previously not dunked in water. Heard. All right. So gets the bonk. We'll take that. So
you know who?
Go ahead.
This
sorry.
mate has landed many stuns. And that stun in particular is very big, right? Because that was the 5th stack for SSB. So that essentially prevented an S2 going out and, allowed the Arbiter, good chance that it allowed the Arbiter to get an extra turn, right? Because with the S2 damage, could very well have died.
So do we see there being some retaliation? I think I must have missed it too while we were talking. Did Arbiter Vildred end up rezzing on his own res, or was that based on the maid res?
I think that was his own res, because if you look at the rest of the units, it looks like the mate hasn't used her S3 yet, right? Has she?
Nope, you're right. Sorry, I saw the attack buff and just assumed that it was up, but you're definitely right. It has not actually happened yet. So does Maid bring back the Arbiter here? It looks like she's going to.
Sure does. That SSB is stunned forever, though. Well, good.
Does not kill. That's kind of huge. Surprised about that.
I don't think that matters too much, because the Raz here is just going to finish off Arbiter. So Arbiter comes back, Arbiter goes away.
All right, so if you're Code right now, who's your next target? Are you going to just deal with the Alencia despite all the buffs, despite everything else, and just kind of say, like, listen, your mind's eye is not going to be enough to take me down? Or
to be honest, if the maid gets another stun here, I just take out the maid so we don't deal with it. She doesn't.
Sorry.
Though, so.
I'm back, guys. Sorry, I went to the store real quick.
So, does this even kill the SSB? It does not. So, another immaculate calculations from our, resident player takes another hit off. So, well, here's the thing, right? Frenzies are starting to kick in. Your little queen is starting to hit, like, pretty damn hard here.
Yep, does get the crit. That is enough to take it down. Here we go. Second time. Do we get another hit?
Soulburn S2. Now, speaking of how loaded his S2 is, imagine if that thing didn't have a cooldown. That's what Soulburn does for Raz S2 here. So,
didn't even have to get the defense break, by the way, too, and that was still an easy queen finish right there.
Right. There's 3 turns before the maid res is up. Do you try to snipe out the maid, or do you just take out the DN? Opts to take out the DN.
He's going for DN, yeah.
Yep. Another S2.
Code's FCC. Code's FCC is probably solid enough if they bring back. Is that kind of his hope? Probably is like, hey, if you happen to get back around again and you want to bring everybody back up, I'm just going to be able to, between the FCC and the extra damage coming in from my dual attacks between Raz and Little Queen, I'm not scared of it.
I mean, that has to be the potential here, right? Because the FCC is not even just about how much damage the FCC does. It's the fact that she just, procs her shield and her S3 every single time. Between that and the Little Queen's just passive, just brings so much mitigation to the table.
No bonks coming out this time around. At the start of the match, it was insane.
She used up all her RNG at the start.
Yeah, and the Raz immunity playing a nice role too.
This game is looking pretty over at this point. It's going to be really, really difficult unless the maid actually...
the maid out.
Yeah, I don't want to count the maid out because I've seen maid bring up some stuff and make it happen. But the 3 characters that he does have left are pretty healthy. And the characters coming back would be... Let's see, he's going to do it right now. So we're just going to see. I don't even have to predict. Let's watch.
Oh, it is very difficult for maid to come back from a play, because when you do res your units are very close to just dying. Arbiter Vilder does manage to get a turn here, but between the two immunities on the important targets and just Little Queen having defense up, just makes the Arbiter Vilder look like a wet noodle. You're right.
Yep. To some degree. All right, here comes a little bit of damage coming in here from Valencia on the S3. Will it be enough to make some real marks?
Well, if the Little Queen has her S3 up, she's going to undo a lot of that damage. We can see that she does.
She does, yep. So this is going to be a dead Valencia. Almost even if without a crit, I think this will still probably cut it down. But does get the crit, so that's a dead Valencia for sure.
Oh, and the Frenzy kicks in just in time to make it look like healing.
Yep.
Interesting mechanic that. Do you guys think that when a Frenzy kicks in and cuts your max HP, it should also, proportionally cut your current HP?
Sorry, ask that one more time. I missed that.
Okay, so what happens during Frenzy is when it cuts your max HP, it makes it look like you're healing, right? Because your max HP gets cut.
Right.
Do you think it should instead also cut your proportional HP so that if you were 70% HP before the Frenzy kicked in, you would still be 70% after? Would you prefer that, or do you prefer this current system?
That's a good question. I think if it was, being that I don't play a lot of these like the stallier comps that have like all the condoms on them, I would say for me, I would prefer it to do what you're proposing as opposed to what it does currently. But I could see a lot of people having a lot of different opinions on it. It just depends on what you play, right? Like if you're playing,
I think it would be nice, but it's okay as is right now, and it seems kind of difficult to implement. But yeah, I don't see it. That seems a little bit better.
It's an interesting idea at the very least. I'm curious.
Sure
Oh wow, there's a crit. Okay.
Much bigger things to worry about.
DN buff working as intended. Bummer.
Yeah, so we are going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
As we cycle through, unless she gets a massive crit here. Oh, not enough.
I should also mention, I meant it with all due respect that this was going to be a wet noodle fight. I just assumed 20 minutes. I was halfway thinking about going down the street and grabbing myself a Slurpee and coming back, but looks like we do end out with Code winning the first one. Congratulations, Code. Nice job. Now, if you are Jay right now, what are your next steps? Do you try and still play into the Code style of play? 'Cause I'm not gonna lie. The little bit of like the Code that I've seen play has been very similar to what I just saw. Like he tends to draft these very large, beefy, I've got gear and I know how to play these characters builds.
Oh yeah, he only drafts these. I don't think he even has speed units built.
100%. But I think that like if you were a competitor in this tournament, you see Code because you are familiar with what kind of units he likes to bring. You have to approach this in a little bit of a different way, right? So obviously you don't want to deal with the Ruel, that's fine. And then you have to factor in like how are you going to play around his Little Queen's passive coming into play? How are you going to play around all these defense buffs, right? And the answer to that can possibly be true damage. So there are a couple of units that have true damage in this game. Watcher Shiri, we've already seen one of them.
Yep.
And there's also this thing called D Corvus. Dark Corvus, guys. Notorious in other game modes available in the game. Not so much in RTA because it's a little bit on the slow side, but he is one of the best tank busters in the game because he does not care about what buffs you have. When he goes, right?
So it's interesting that you'd say that, right? Tank busters, right? At this point, obviously we're seeing that they're already starting the draft here already. But tell me more. If you know that you're getting into these some of these longer fights, does Dark Corvus's value go up pretty significantly?
I mean, I definitely think about it, right? And I think you build a very specific Dark Corvus for matchups like this because we do know that these like tanky, bulky comps are popular among a lot of the high-level players, especially those who don't, default to high aggressive play. If you, rock a very well-built Dark Corvus with some speed, he could present a threat. Like if you somehow manage to draft yourself in a position where you bring in both Iseria and Dark Corvus, that's a turn 1 Dark Corvus S3. Like there are options for you, and I think that if you are facing up against someone who's known to be very tanky, very resilient, and very comfortable with their playstyle, you have to think of alternative ways to get into this draft and not just pick your usual units and hope that they do enough damage, because if they don't, they don't.
It's a great point, Lilac, but let's say in your scenario a player chooses Iseria Corvus. Wouldn't Code just ban the Corvus? And then you're kind of left with
and then you pick something else that I mean, Iseria is such a, like, you have to tailor your draft accordingly, but Iseria S2 is such a potent skill, right? It lets you reset cooldowns on anyone. I'm sure there are other options, like if you somehow manage to make to get a Watcher Shuri through, that's something, right? If you can even, you know, potentially cheese out some sort of Tam Iseria play. So
well, jumping into the match right now, it looks like we're going to see an S3 coming out of Vivian. They had so let's talk about this for a second. The picks that we've got here were interesting. Ruel actually makes it through. We also see Vivian on that side as well.
With a Dingus Orb.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then you have Code picked a Rowana to kind of deal with some of these rebuttals, which is pretty solid so far. Gets a heal right there. Also is going to get the res on the S3 here.
And then Alencia just kind of gets rid of whatever Vivian did on turn 1. If she chooses to.
Okay.
Chooses not to,
S1.
though.
Dual attack. Okay.
And that's some good damage that you put into the SSB. And I'm sure the fact that Ruel is on the receiving end of the partner damage had something to do with that.
I wanted to S3. All right. Well, now we know exactly what Code was hoping to do.
Right. So that made more sense.
All right. We're going to see Ruel here using the S3. Presumably to keep herself alive is my guess.
Yep. But now the Alencia can get rid of that invincibility because she did an S3.
That's
there
true.
it is.
Big brain.
He knows exactly.
Code
He
commentating his own game, everyone.
Yeah.
If you don't know
I mean,
who Code is, you'll find him on Twitch regularly, Monday, Wednesday. Actually, I have no idea when he does, but
I mean, at
good
this
guy,
point,
Code.
we just
Love that
wait
guy.
for him to bring it back up and read whatever he types, right?
Here comes the descending blade. Isn't enough to do the SSB in. Also gets the rebuttal right here, which is actually a heal ultimately.
Now he gets the S3. Wow, look at that.
Is it going to crit? Does crit, and this is definitely a dead Vivian.
Yep. Now he gets the S3. Actual genius level play. Was so
Galaxy
smart,
brain.
he outsmarted himself.
Dang, dude. Oh!
Resisted, though.
Dang.
That's okay, because the Ruel here is very slow. You know, she has used her S3. You can now go to town on the rest of her team, right? Because you're not really scared.
It's very true.
All right, so we get a repeat here. Will this Kayron kill this time? Is holding Eliha's knife. That seems
That's
like
huge.
a very dead Alencia. There you go.
So it's 3 turns to wait this out. Does end up healing up the Kayron. Do we think we have a chance here of lasting this out? Because he has the ability to survive, at least if they go for Kayron. I mean, there's no reason to go for Kayron at this point, but do we even think the Ruel has enough, like, in the tank to be able to survive long enough to make this a reality?
I think this Ruel is
I
a
don't
little
think
bit on the
so.
slow side, so it's going to be very, very, very tough for her.
Dang, guys. Code showing right now why he is number 1 on the ladder. And giving the thumbs up. Is it disrespect? Is it? Nope, not even disrespect. Just showing a GG to J-Babes. Congratulations, man. Congratulations to Code. We're going to send this to the analyst desk. We're going to let them analyze this. And then afterwards, I'll let him send us off. We'll do a quick break.
All right. Thank you for that. So definitely 2 rounds in Code's favor. Definitely there. That round 1 was honestly a little surprising there. Not to mention, I think the very first start there, Code's ML Charlotte, being able to crit through TN's anti-crit was a big portion of the play there. Nuked the Arbiter Villager early. And then throughout the whole time, unfortunately, it seems like DN's anti-crit was working as intended, working very well as intended, and obviously letting all the crits through during that. But round 1 was definitely a bit of a longer fight there. Both teams had a lot of sustain buffs and just utility on their team to keep each other alive there. And Tiber, do you want to add a little bit into that and how round 1 went?
Yeah, it was a super long game. We saw Frenzy come into play. It was really pog. We know that Code drafts this way, as everyone said. Everyone knows who he is. The game was decided after a certain point, though, made, as I think the casters touched upon a tiny bit. Although she does heal when she takes a turn, and you can even soul burn to cycle off your skill cooldowns, eventually it's just not enough, especially since by the time the units come back up, they just get one tap. Jeff.
Yeah, even with the turn order of Mei Chloe being able to revive an Arbiter Villager, getting the right turn order there, it wasn't really enough to kind of bring the game back for him, just because, I mean, Code's units itself are geared really well, can soak up the damage, and can come back from that to still kill the units that got revived there. And, well, with that, round 2, let's hear what our analyst here, Pantry, has to say about round 2.
Round 2, I'm pretty sure Cole just commentated his own veg.
Very true.
Self-caster. Calling out the not actually Estering on the Alencia, I believe, and then not exactly stripping the buffs and setting up defense buff. But it was actually worked in somewhat of his favor. RB came back, LQC, everything else came out pretty good. The Roana, I have to say, was definitely the pick of the match here. Actually kept his entire team quite healthy, while also giving them that nice combat readiness push. Giving him the nice turn to nuke out both the Vivian and the SSB. Even though he didn't quite kill the SSB, he eventually just dual attack and killed her anyway. It probably wouldn't have mattered. If she did toss out her S2, he probably would have just like get healed again. She would have done negative damage. Nothing would have mattered. And that was the game.
Yeah, definitely strong drafts and picks by both sides there. I think if Vivian got a turn there on game 2, she might have been able to really do a lot of damage, but because of the force from Ruel, well, as Code said, big brain plays, as he self-casted with the chat there during that. All right, and I believe we're going to take a quick short break before we get into the next matches, right, Ark?
Yes, sir.
All right, so if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys get up, stretch, grab some water. If not, you guys can sit here and mold, and same for our casters and Alice and everyone here.
And make sure to use Twitch Prime, Pog.